had movements like the mod, which is very closely connected to a fashion, but nobody really shot quite like Vivienne Westwood when she paired up with Malcolm McLaren to dress as that.
Sky News.
And it's the way she joined it up, wasn't it, as you touched on there, Sasha, with the world of protest, the world of politics, and particularly in those early days, the world of punk.
Absolutely, it was that synergy of fashion that was so enormously powerful, because she believed you could express your ideas through the clothes that you wore, and as I said before, that you can affect really radical change.
So I thought I'd do something different, because I've already done 2 this evening. Let's do another vlog.
And she always said, just reading some of her many quotations, I was lucky enough to interview her a couple of times as well.
Shitty piece of
she always said
broken pint
she'd
glass.
like to see if she could put a spoke in the system.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. She was a passionate advocate for environmental causes, for climate change, although there was, of course, the irony that she designed a uniform for Virgin Atlantic, which is still in use today.
Virgin Atlantic, there you go, Steph.
Right? So were they the original uniforms?
Those incredible, they're still worn, those red fitted jackets, the incredible folded white shirts, those are Vivienne Westwood designs. They work using sustainable materials to make them, but I always thought there was a slight contradiction in terms to be so passionate about the effects of climate change when you're designing uniforms for an airline.
But maybe that was sort of part of putting a spoke in things, because of course you talk about her being an iconoclast, but there she was starting out in the King's Road with a shop called Sex, and mixing with Malcolm McLaren and the Sex Pistols and all the punk. And fast forward 40 odd years or so, and she's going to the palace to accept a DBE and become Dame Vivienne.
As I said, I'm bored, so if you're bored, then piss off and do something else.
Visible in public life, because I think it's fair to say that women sometimes disappear as they get older, and nobody could ever accuse Dame Vivienne of disappearing.
God knows what.
And just in terms of the pure influence on fashion, which is why we've got you on, because I obviously don't know an awful lot about it. How much does she leave behind? How many designers now in their prime have been influenced by it?
Hopefully I won't break it.
Absolutely. I mean, you only have to look at what people wear. Kate Moss is a really good example.
Now, do we apply to the inside or the outside or both?
Some 50 years after they were
I'm inclined on the inside.
And she was very heavily influenced.
And it's still shitty.
Historical dress,
I should get some soap on it.
The mini crinoline, which went on to influence designers.
I really should. I should do this properly.
Of her clothing through so many extremely well-known designers globally.
It's a shard of glass.
Well, it's great getting your expertise and your input.
This is really bothering me. Look at it.
Thank you very much indeed.
You can see how filthy it is.
Dame Vivienne Westwood, whose death has been announced today. And coming up on Sky News,
it's not clean,
another
is it?
sad announcement. We'll get more on the news that the football legend Pelé has died.
Yeah, we know Pelé's died.
82.
Let's talk about Vivienne. She's British.
Sometimes
English. Institution. No, there we go. Saliva's really good. It's got nice enzymes in it. Yeah, that's going to keep it there. Got my microfiber.
Left Home Alone. Sky built us a very own Home Alone inspired house.
This will be worth it.
Science, of course.
Trying to formulate some ideas.
Alex Brooker seeks out tips from those who know.
I'm here to meet Mark himself, that is there.
This might just be a Christmas to remember.
Nothing special.
Unofficial sightings of
just creativity. However base. Naive. That's what I am. I'm a naive creative. In other words, I never did this when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was too busy drawing airplanes and submarines. But doing shit like this, I never entertained my mind. And now I'm 58 next month. Yeah? Send me a birthday card and a present. Yeah? PayPal accepted. Buy me a coffee. Oh, that's looking nice, man. See, now if I was Uri Geller, I'd be bending the glass. But I'm not. I'm just making it really nice and sparkly clean. Because this is good for my mental health, just doing this, you know. I could be perverted and say I don't have a woman in my life, so Just even feeling the contours here in this piece of glass.
Christmas is here and the snow might be falling. The journey's a bit risky, feeling
sparkling.
like they're road walls in need of
see
highway
there's a
patrol.
dot there.
And people getting caught on dash cam or even caught red-handed.
See if I can get...
But don't worry, you can leave all that to Santa.
Okay, I know it.
Just get the tree
Okay,
down.
that's gorgeous. That's
Join
gorgeous.
us for a criminally good Christmas.
Shut the fuck up. Hey, shut that. Yeah, shut up. Let's see if I can... As I said, I'm bored. Yeah. So, if I'm boring you, shut off. Nah. Look at that. Sort of in focus, isn't it? Is it? I don't know. No, it's not. It'd be better with my camera. We're getting there. Sussing it out. See, yeah, I'm going to bore you again. I'm bored. So I'm going to bore you. There we go. Look at that. Pristine clean. Isn't that beautiful? Alright, I'm going to put the sound back on to keep me entertained, because I've got, if I go to sleep, I go to sleep with noise on in the background, i.e. news.
Legend Pele has died at the age of 82. Pele
And,
had been in hospital for cancer treatment for a month, first on to the
so I've been told.
when he was 17. Brazil won the World Cup in 19.
That is looking lovely.
He would then go on to win football's biggest trophy
I should photograph
2 more
that,
times,
as
set
is.
record yet, if ever, to be matched. And tonight, the England World Cup
Look at
winner Sir Jeff
my
Hurst
glass
described
ball.
him as the greatest
Glass
of
ball.
all time. Well, Tom Parminter.
You can't see that. You can't see that.
He won 3 World Cups.
I'll have to put it there.
No player has ever
And
matched
this is
him.
filthy.
There were tears in 1958 when, aged just 17, he won the first one. The last one in 1970 was the crowning moment.
I'm a content creator, however crap that content may be. I'm a content creator, so
He was made for
deal with
football,
it.
and then
And why I
football
should keep
was made
apologising, I really don't know.
for him.
So,
In 1940, he was
so we got
raised
a
in the
nice
slums of Southeast
piece of
Brazil.
glass
The nickname Pele
that
only
was
came once he'd
most
started kicking the ball.
serendipitous,
In Portuguese, when you kick
and it's very sharp, and I could kill myself with that within seconds.
maybe because I
But that's really interesting. That's unique.
Pele.
Utterly unique.
I find you there about it all. My name is Anson.
Nobody has scored more
So,
goals for Brazil. Nobody
I think it
calculated
needs
the
a
balance
swipe of this.
quite like Pele. Facing him,
And we will. We'll go on the inside surface. And we'll see
after his
what
career
happens.
ended, Pele took on
I
all
can't
sorts of
grip
goals.
that hard.
The
I'll
1981
cut
film,
myself.
Escape to Victory, saw him alongside Michael Caine.
Cool. I have to give me the here. I do these. Go.
He helped Brazil win the bid to host the World Cup in 2014 and the Rio Olympics 2 years later. But his impact on the pitch was always greater
Never
than
works out
anything he did off it.
as you think it should.
Pele scored well over 1,000 goals.
You can't
But
plan
in his
for it.
day,
And I haven't
the
got the light
accolade of
on
the
it
Ballon
correctly.
d'Or was only given to European-based
So it always
players.
turns out crap.
In 2013, FIFA put that right.
Now, I thank God I could.
But then that's the fun of it. The fun of it is doing
There
it.
had been numerous health scares and hospital stays. But his family were always keen to share with the world how he was doing in what he called extra time. There have been so many greats to grace the game: Maradona, Cruyff, Puskás, Bobby Charlton, Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. But none of them have won 3 World Cups. Pele was the one.
There is another colour that I need in there.
20th century.
Now, what I sometimes would do is get my hair dryer on this. Literally, it's just sat there.
Let's give you a flavour from Gary Lineker.
Dry that off.
Pele has died, the most divine of footballers and joyous of men.
Maybe I might do that in a minute.
Chosen ones have come close to it. 3 times lifted the most.
I want some purples. I didn't think of using purples, but as it sat in front of me, I'm going to use some purples.
Immortality, R.I.P. Pele. So Jeff first tweeted, "I have so many memories of Pele without doubt.
If I had
I ever played against, Bobby Moore being the best footballer I ever played alongside. For me, Pele remains the greatest of all time, and I was proud to be on the pitch with him. R.I.P. Pele, and thank you." And Cristiano Ronaldo posted on Instagram, "My deepest condolences to all of Brazil, and in particular to the family of Mr.
Can't even coordinate.
There
we go. Right.
A mere goodbye to the eternal King Pele will never be enough to express the pain that currently embraces the entire world.
I need my glasses too.
An inspiration for so many millions, a reference from yesterday, today, forever. The affection he always showed for me was reciprocal in every moment we shared, even from a distance.
And
will never be forgotten.
yeah, it's not working for me here.
Forever.
That's better. I've now got a white background.
King Pele. And in London, this is Wembley Stadium tonight. The arch has been lit up in Brazilian colours in tribute to Pele. And in a statement this evening, the Football Association said, "One of the greatest to have graced the beautiful game. Farewell, Pele, you will never be forgotten." And also this evening, the pioneering fashion designer Dame Vivienne Westwood has died at the age of 81.
Rest in peace, Vivienne.
Named for herself in the 1970s with her designs, slogan T-shirts, and irreverent attitude towards
London
the
punk.
establishment.
It was
The
always
representatives said
it was
that she
always
died peacefully
rich punk,
surrounded by
you
her
know.
family. Well, our correspondent
not like the punk that originated in the Midlands.
To assess the life and times of Dame Vivienne.
That was real crass punk.
Well, Dame Vivienne Westwood isn't someone who simply designed dresses for royalty, for celebrities, for rock stars. She herself was considered someone who was fashion royalty, a pioneer of the punk scene of the 1970s and 80s. She's credited with bringing modern punk and new wave fashion to the mainstream, allowing people to wear things that would otherwise be considered inappropriate in public. Now, you may remember that time when Naomi Campbell famously walked up a catwalk wearing a traffic cone. That was the work of Vivienne Westwood. Anyone who watched Prince William and Princess Kate Middleton's wedding would have noticed Princess Eugenie's bright blue frock, again another Vivienne Westwood creation. She also designed clothes for celebrities who have that sort of punk edge, people like Pharrell Williams. Her designs featured in films, particularly one that focused on fashion, the 2008 film adaptation of the TV series Sex and the City Among Them. She was born in Derbyshire to working class parents who really encouraged her to be creative, but it was years later when
I'll
she
probably
was an
get
adult,
done for copyright because I've got Sky News playing in the background.
Store's manager Malcolm McLaren, and together they opened a boutique on King's Road in London, which really became a hub for the punk fashion scene, and is somewhere that
London,
like that sort of fashion, still think about this place as being the real hub of the punk fashion scene. Those clothes were radical, they were wild, they were influenced by sex and bondage and fetishes. She described herself as the very embodiment of youth's assumption of immorality. But she thought punk was more than just fashion, and she was a political activist, she was a businesswoman. She reportedly donated £300,000 to the Green Party. Some people say she kick-started the trend of sustainable fashion long before it became fashionable itself, and she was an ardent supporter of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. She visited him several times when he was staying at the Ecuadorian embassy, and indeed she's described as being the epicenter of British fashion business as well.
I think I'll do the silver next.
That store on King's Road and what was deemed appropriate to wear in public. And tonight tributes have been coming in. The Culture Secretary Michelle Donnellan has written
I could go on the other side
a
actually for this
sad
one.
day. Vivienne Westwood was
looks
and will
totally
remain
different on the
a
other
figure
side.
in British fashion. Her punk style rewrote the rule book in the 1970s and was widely admired for how she stayed true to her own values throughout her life.
So I can see
and the
what
Victoria and Albert Museum has also posted a tweet in which it says, "We are saddened to learn about the passing of legendary designer Vivienne Westwood, a true revolutionary and rebellious force in fashion." Her own fashion house, Vivienne Westwood, said that she had died peacefully, surrounded by her family in Clapham in South London. It said, "The world needs people like Vivienne to make a change for the better." She was bold, she was revolutionary, she was a radical. Tonight, her husband and her creative partner, Andreas Quantela, said, "I will continue with Vivienne in my heart. We have been working until the end, and she has given me plenty of things to get on with. Thank you, darling." So Dame Vivienne Westwood, British fashion designer, who died today at the age of 82.
In January. Thank you very much. Well, to other developments, the government is coming under increasing pressure tonight to reintroduce COVID testing for air passengers arriving from China. A number of countries, including the United States, have already imposed restrictions following a rise in COVID cases in China after it abandoned its zero COVID policy. UK ministers say the government is reviewing its response, but there's currently no evidence of a new variant in China that is not already.
Don't be afraid to use your finger to smudge it.
Our correspondent Laura Bundock has more.
China has been pretty much closed to the world for 3 years, but restrictions are now being relaxed, and from the 8th of January, Beijing is reopening its borders. That means there will be no more quarantine for people.
I have done jigsaw puzzles in my life too.
Restrictions, some countries are reintroducing them. The US, Italy, India, Malaysia, Taiwan, South Korea,
and I just immersed myself in doing a few jigsaw puzzles and playing Painkiller on the PC.
A COVID surge and new variants. But other countries, including Australia, France, and the UK, say they
I really need some white paper.
Extra testing.
I can't use that because I might get banned.
Coming out of China,
the
Secretary of State for Health
Here we go. This is
Chief Executive of the UK
waves coming into the shore that I did the other day.
This morning, so it's being taken incredibly seriously by the government. The key threat is any new variant. There's no evidence at this point of any new variant from China. A variant that is not already prevalent here in the UK, but nevertheless, we're keeping the situation very much under review.
No, this is going to look good.
What does the data tell us? Well, it's almost
If I can get it
impossible
to
to know
focus.
exactly what's going on in China. For the last few weeks, China has been reporting around 5,000 cases a day. That's a significant drop from the larger numbers in November and early December. But testing is limited, and officials are no longer reporting daily cases.
Can you see
These
that?
numbers do not reflect the true picture. We do know, though, that China has a very large population with very low
Do some
immunity.
reds in there as
Hospital
well, actually.
admissions have been rising rapidly, and that is certainly why they're worried in Italy.
Every single country
Come on,
should look at
focus.
China and Chinese people traveling abroad with particular attention, because the possibility of importing new strains, potentially with higher dangerous potential for the human health, and escaping the existing vaccine protection in our countries, is a possibility which is substantial.
Right, so I got a
EU
better.
officials have been meeting, but despite Italy's pleas, there won't
Got some
be a
fun.
coordinated response.
That's what's in these cans, you see, is my art stuff.
But the world
Oh, I can see that lovely now.
very closely.
Laura Bundock reporting. Now, Ukraine is accusing Russia of mass war crimes after the biggest wave of missile strikes for weeks.
That
Officials
one's
said
dead.
almost 70 missiles were fired, the majority of them intercepted by Ukraine's
Come
air
on.
defences. But some missiles did get through, with rescue workers now sifting through the
No,
wreckage
it's not
of
good enough.
residential buildings in Kyiv and energy infrastructure damage in Kharkiv.
Should have another tin for that one.
Ukraine's foreign minister
See
Dmitry
that?
Kuleba has
Rubbish.
described the attacks as senseless barbarism. Well, as well as Kyiv, where 3 people were injured, in Kharkiv, cities across the country were attacked.
Oh,
City
pink.
of Odessa was hit. Authorities in 90% of the city is still without electricity. There have also been reports of explosions at
Quite dark
Zoltania,
pink.
while rockets were shot down in the Kalaya,
Oh,
as
that's
well
nice.
as in the northeastern Sumy region. From Kyiv, Sky correspondent Yusra Elvir reports.
Moscow has shattered the calm in the capital.
Really need my hair dryer.
This
Dry
house,
all this
or what's
off.
left of it, is in a suburb south of Kyiv city centre, hit by the falling wreckage of an intercepted Russian missile. Even though a majority of missiles have been intercepted, what you see here is a crater made by a falling warhead that detonated and destroyed this house. Now, this wreckage is a symbol of the fact that even though there has been a period of calm, Kyiv is still a major target for Moscow. Home to an elderly man and his son who were sleeping when the rocket hit.
It is, I find, when I get the mood. This is quite relaxing.
Человек будет любой идти нормальный, поживой. У него ужас. Вот это поэтому мне хочется вот это все прибрать, чтобы люди не видели этого кошмара.
This comes after the Russian Defense Ministry announced earlier this week that a Ukrainian drone had targeted key airbase and
I wish you could see that.
Ukrainian
It's looking
officials
quite
say
impressive.
that all 16 missiles fired at the Kyiv region were intercepted.
Let me see if
The
I can do
mayor
this.
tells us that the residents of the city may be resilient.
Don't know which way to present it to you.
The Russians want to
I move this over here.
Christmas time. The Russians want to bring us to black time.
Come on, stand up.
Without lighting, without heating. They have to bring depression mood to everyone. Instead, the Ukrainian people were happy, and they thought better we stay without electricity, without heating, but we never give up.
After symbolic gains by Ukraine, Russian retaliation
It's in the
followed.
lens.
Это преступление перед людьми, не только передо мной, перед всеми. Ну, я попал сейчас. В следующий раз кто-то другой.
An expected play in this war game, where the civilians always lose.
Сами.
Yusra Elvir, Sky News, Kyiv.
The government says it will not be held to ransom by striking public sector workers, insisting that there is no magic money won for above inflation pay rises. One of the most senior union leaders has accused ministers of acting as a barrier in negotiations to try to end the strikes.
I feel that they have been sabotaging it, right from our railways, where initially ministers said they had no responsibility for those negotiations at all, then had to fess up that actually they did have a responsibility. They threw in conditions at the last minute. I think they'd scuppered the deal on rail that was within grasp a few weeks ago. But look at what happened last week in the health service. In the midst of a pay dispute, Stephen Barclay, the health secretary, said he talked about anything with unions except pay. I mean, that just doesn't make sense whatsoever. And I think it's a real slap in the face for those NHS staff who just felt they had no alternative but to take strike action. So now's the time for governments to not act as a barrier to a settlement, but to actually facilitate the settlement. And the only way they're going to do that is by sitting around the table and reaching a compromise and reaching an agreement.
It's in the way.
Our political correspondent Liz Bates joins me now. So Liz, it's still stalemate then.
It certainly is, but if one thing is shifting and changing slightly, it is the language. And as you saw there, it is becoming more confrontational between the government and the union chiefs. We have heard today from the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace. What he said was, first of all, he accused the union bosses of holding the country to ransom. He also used a slightly altered phrase, there's no magic money wand. It used to be magic money tree, now it's wand, apparently holding the government's line on this, which is to say that there just simply is not the money to finance these pay demands that are coming from unions across various sectors. You also heard there from the head of the TUC. He has accused the government of sabotaging efforts to compromise. What he was saying is that ministers are simply not coming to the table to talk about the issue at the centre of all of this, which is, of course, pay. The Prime Minister has been pretty clear on his position in all of this. He believes that any pay deals that go above inflation would drive prices up, and that would mean that he would be unable to get a grip of the cost of living crisis, and that really is a top priority for him and for his government. What the unions have been arguing, though, is that it is not public sector pay that is driving inflation now and over many years. It has instead been private sector profits. They have released new figures today, which suggest that
this really is macro work. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, you must be bored by now. Yeah, I wouldn't blame you.
That's because of pay increases, but below
We'll take some photos of it later.
To keep up with inflation, they say, over that period of time. And they say that has led to the longest pay squeeze in history. And of course, the bigger question in all of this is, as these strikes and this industrial action continues into the new year, who in the end will get the blame? I think that will play a huge part.
It needs something else.
Down first, and both sides at the moment digging in.
Okay, Liz Bates in Westminster, thank you. Now, officials in New York State say more victims of the extreme weather could be found.
You're not going to be able to see that at all.
Carried out. At least 69 people have died, more than half of them in New York.
You're not going to be able to appreciate that.
North America for
it
decades.
Looks like I scribbled felt tip on it.
Authorities are now preparing for the possibility
of piece of glass
as the snow begins to melt.
It's too bright.
US correspondent Martha Kellner reports now from Buffalo in New York.
Almost a week since a ferocious storm choked this frozen land, Buffalo is starting to churn again. The main airport is back open,
Told you I was
and the
bored.
roads are too. The travel ban lifted, freeing people to move around. But even as temperatures rise and conditions thaw, the emotions and the anger are raw. And just explain what the last week's been like for you.
A living hell. An absolute living hell. Like nobody cares.
For 6 days, Chris was trapped inside by snow packed so tightly by the wind.
That's the applied side. This is the side you'll see it through.
Abandoned her and her neighbours.
First day I went out. And today I came out to a dry shovel, and I called my other daughter, and she came over and helped me. We were doing this, and that's when they met me in. Thank you. Game saved us. That's how I feel about you. Game saved us. Why should companies be digging out when we live in the city? They take care of every place else, but here, and because they say this is the poor side of the city.
Just does look like felt tips on a piece of glass, which is basically what it is. But
many lived in the most deprived part of town.
I know what it
The
needs.
majority were black or Hispanic.
But in person, if I could get the light correct,
who doted on her grandchildren.
it's really not too bad.
She's nipping out for a short
I know
while.
what it needs. Let me find something.
She never returned. She was found 200 yards from her front door, frozen to death. A stranger brought her body and placed it underneath.
And I need this light here. It's all about the light. It really is all about the light.
As the clear-up continues, the head of the local government says he expects the death toll to rise.
Unfortunately, there are families in this community who still have not been able to identify where a loved one is. They're missing, and we do have still John Doe's. And eventually those family members are going to find out the worst news possible.
Several of those killed froze to death in their cars. Some question whether they were given adequate warning before the storm hit. The post-mortems on the many victims continues.
Because you just turn it, and it looks so utterly different.
Martha Kellner, Sky News, Buffalo.
In Cambodia, 19 people have been killed in a fire at a casino on the border with Thailand.
Even blowing on it changes
people are
it.
missing following the fire, which broke out in the early hours of this morning. The complex in the town of Poi Phet is on the Thai border, and many of the 60 people injured in it were sent to Thailand for treatment. Sky's Becky Cottrell reports.
Emergency services.
And then you leave it, and it just dilutes. Well, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that as is.
Hours to tame the fire that broke out just before midnight. Some were trapped and could not be saved. Others survived but needed immediate medical attention. Many of them
I'm going to leave that as is, and so what? Yeah. And I'll take some stills of it. That was a shard of broken pint glass. There you go.
Rescue teams searched amongst the smoke for survivors. Some are still
You'll see it later. Thanks.
Those who could